Welcome to KMET 1490 AM ABC News Radio and the Southern California Business Report with Yvette Walker, a show dedicated to highlighting successful Southern California businesses and the people behind them.
Welcome and thank you for joining Southern California Business Report on ABC News and Talks, KMET 1490 AM, 98.1 FM, and KMET TV. I'm Yvette Walker, live blasting our signal from the center of Southern California, serving a population of over 25 million. Get us crystal clear and on demand by downloading the free live streaming app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. As always, a huge shout out to the team, Mitch, Bill, and Sean. I love you guys. And to our special advisory committee that can be found at scbrtalk.com/advisory committee. Today, I have the distinct pleasure and honor to introduce Allan Karl. He is a global motorcycle adventurer, television host, professional speaker, and best-selling author of the book Forks, A Quest for Culture, Cuisine, and Connection. He is a passionate adventurer who has traveled to over 80 countries, many of which were during his remarkable 3-year solo motorcycle journey around the world. Allan documents his adventures and travels on his widely read blog at www.worldrider.com and his popular YouTube channel, www.worldrider.tv. His journeys, adventures, and discoveries have included traveling around the world solo on a motorcycle, sailing the Flores Sea in search of the elusive Komodo Dragon, serving as team member and photographer in the Dakar, the most treacherous motorsport race in the world, crossing the Nubian Desert in Sudan by motorcycle, hosted Food Explorer TV show for the travel and cooking channels. When not traveling the world or embarking on an off-the-beaten-path adventures, Allan inspires and motivates audiences through dynamic keynote speeches that combine captivating storytelling with award-winning photography and video. Allan teaches audiences how to overcome challenges, tackle obstacles, embrace change, smile, especially in the face of adversity, and live an astounding life. Before his adventures, Karl started several companies and worked in the C-suite as a branding and marketing strategist. Notably, he founded Wirestone, a leading digital marketing agency that was acquired by Accenture in 2018. Today, Karl is the principal of World Rider Productions, a publishing, speaking, and coaching company. His clients have included Apple, AT&T, Hewlett-Packard, Google, and BMW, among others. He also hosts and produces The Journeys with World Rider, podcasts, and writes for an inspired life of travel on Substack, an inspired life of travel. Karl combines his business and branding experience with his entrepreneurial and adventurous spirit to help people and organizations build and leverage the power of an astounding mindset to establish instant rapport and build deeper and more profound connections, enabling them to embrace change, take chances, grow, innovate, and lead, all while expanding their worldviews. These experiences and his business adventures give Karl a unique perspective and provide the basis for his inspirational and motivational management style. Karl holds a BS in Communications from the S.I. Newhouse School of Communications at Syracuse University in New York. Wow, that is an impressive bio, Karl. Thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today.
Yvette, I am so happy to be here. This is so good. I remember when we met at one of my speeches, and I love your passion. I love your show, and I'm really proud to be on it. Thank you.
I appreciate it, Karl. So, you have a world experience. You have traveled to over 80 countries. You have done everything and seen basically everything. Please talk a little bit about what inspired you to pursue your path as an adventurer.
Well, as you read in the very long bio, thank you for indulging that. That was I did work in the C-suite. I was a chief marketing officer. I was obviously the founder. I've always been entrepreneurial in my life. Starting my first businesses when I was, before I was even a teenager. But what what happened there, at some point, we all assess our lives, right? What we're doing. Is it really what we find, what we're destined to do? And while I loved the business of marketing, I love communication, I am really inspired mostly by curiosity. And I had grown this business, this marketing, digital branding business, to a pretty good size. We had acquired a number of companies. We were in 9 different states and grew to over 200 employees. And we were having a meeting with all my managers and investors who had recently put some money into the company, all looking to hit the home run, to go for the big one. And it was September 9th, 10th, and 11th in Las Vegas. We were at the Hard Rock Hotel, and I'll never forget the pounding on the door. I was knocked out sleeping, probably had one little glass of wine too much the night before, just enjoying that late morning wake up. And startled by that sound, my partner Brian was there, and he's like, "Have you turned on the TV?" And that's when I realized that we had been attacked and the towers were falling. And that really provided me a frame of reassessing life. At the same time, I was married, and we had been 2 years working hard to try to conceive, to have children. And I sat there in that hotel room, and we continued that meeting over the next 2 days. But there was this dull silence and this really eerie kind of feeling that just blanketed the entire meeting and all the events, even the golf games and all the stuff you do at these kinds of retreats. And I remember driving home finally when I could find a car, because we couldn't fly. I had this really weird pit in my stomach. And, within the next few months, I decided to quit my job. I quit the job that I had founded, the company I'd founded, and sadly had to leave many of my great employees behind. But I realized this just wasn't what I was destined to do, kind of coming full circle to that. And about that time, I read a book called Ghost Rider. It was written by a gentleman, a Canadian, called Neil Peart. And he is a rock star musician, or was. We lost him in COVID, sadly. But in this book, over a period of a year, he lost his 17-year-old daughter the day that she left to go to college in a car accident on her way to the university. Never made it there. And later that year, his wife died of cancer. And he had this weird feeling in his stomach, and he said he felt like his soul had been sucked out of him. He felt that his life was just like now a blank canvas. There was nothing that was meaningful to him anymore. Though he had everything in terms of what people like to think of everything: money, success, and fame. He had lost the 2 things that really matter: his family and his daughter and his life and as a father.
Right.
And he decided that the way he had to settle his soul was like how he had to settle the soul of the baby when his daughter was an infant. She was colicky, and he would put her in the back seat of the car and drive around, and just that motion of the car would put her to sleep, and they'd put her to bed. He put himself on a motorcycle and rode all the way down to Panama, all the way to Canada, and all around the country. And I thought to myself, wow, I've always had a motorcycle, although the pursuit of the business and trying to succeed, my motorcycle was in the garage gathering more dust than it was any miles. And I decided that maybe I should do something. Now, in the midst of all that, they did start another company, but I found I was doing the same things over and over again. But every time I walked by that motorcycle, thinking of that book I read, I decided that is what I'm going to do. I am motivated and inspired by the cultures, different languages, the diversity, the developing world of people. And I wanted to get on that motorcycle and discover for myself just what's the reality out there compared to what we might be getting fed by other sources. And I hopped on. And that first trip, 3 years, 35 countries, 62,000 miles, took me, 3 years. But there was a bit of an accident in the middle of that, but we can talk about that later. And when I finally got back home, it occurred to me that I had these wonderful experiences. I had learned many lessons. When you travel alone and you've got complications of obviously climate and weather and languages and diversity and different cultures, you've got to figure a way to connect with people. And that's, I think, what those lessons really drilled down to some of that notion of how do we connect with each other. And we all share humanity, right? We are people. And I wrote a book, and I decided this book was not going to be about I. It was not going to be about me, and all the things I had done. It was going to be about the people I met, the places I'd been, the cultures I experienced, and of course, the food I had tasted. So my book is actually like a coffee table book. It's a hybrid. And, it's interesting. I had a publisher who was willing to publish for itself my book as a memoir, as a travelogue story. But when I had this epiphany and I said, I don't want to talk about me, I want to talk about this beautiful world we live in. The publisher says, nah, let's stick to, you could put a couple recipes in, we can put some black and white photos in the middle of it maybe, but no, continue this. So I canceled my contract with the publisher and decided to do this like I did my journey, like I built my business, and do it myself. And I published Forks, A Quest for Culture, Cuisine, and Connection. And it's a beautiful book that has, it's got 500 photographs, 35 recipes. And I felt that's the way I could share the lessons I learned as a start. And then I began speaking, and now I'm writing new books and did the TV show. And this is all about how we can transform our lives and find out what is our destiny? What inspires you? You can always find that.
Absolutely. And I know that, one of the things you like to focus on is finding comfort in the things that are uncomfortable, right? So please share with us what the most uncomfortable experience you had during your journey on your motorcycle.
Well, there are so many times where I'm just maybe lost, maybe I'm hungry, maybe I'm confused because I don't speak the language. But one of the things that I learned most in all of those kinds of uncomfortable situations, that if I just focused and turned around, there's always somebody there. And that's the beauty of connecting with people. But I do love this notion of finding comfort in uncomfortable situations. A lot of times we're afraid, or we kind of resist and avoid those maybe sometimes difficult conversations we need to have with other people that are close to us. Maybe going somewhere that just is not so comfortable. But you can find comfort in those situations. I stopped in the middle of the Colombian jungle when I was on my motorcycle after being warned by 3 police officers that this section of Colombia I was about to ride through was the most dangerous part of the world. And they told me, don't stop there. Just get right through. It's going to be 2 or 3 hours, and then you'll come to another town and you can get your food and use the restrooms, whatever you need to do, but don't stop.
Don't stop.
Yeah. Well, I come cruising around. It's about an hour into this journey, and I see maybe one car and one guy on the side of the road carrying wood, because that's for their home to heat and cook and all that. And I come around a series of corners, and there's this waterfall. It's dropping 300 feet into this beautiful river winding below. And I stop because, you know what? I got to get a picture. I'm a photographer. I love it. We got to honor what's beautiful about the world around us. And I stop. But before I can even get off my motorcycle, I am now flanked by 2 guys clad in jungle fatigues, carrying automatic, machine guns. And you talk about a heart skipping a beat. Mine skipped about 20. And I never, you start stuttering, and what do you do? And in this case, I was lost for words, and they just stood in front of me in Spanish because they didn't speak any English, asking me questions that I'd heard all over. Who are you? Why are you here? Where are you going? Where'd you get the motorcycle? And behind the backdrop of these guys is that waterfall. And all I can do is muster up this limited Spanish vocabulary of words. And I just say, La cascada. Hey, que increíble. It was that waterfall. How wonderful.
Yes.
And I won't go through the whole story. I do tell this story in my keynote speeches, but in the end, I honored these folks by honoring their environment and they had a choice. They could have killed me and stolen my motorcycle, but they didn't. And it's always been in the back of my mind, why didn't they? That was the most uncomfortable situation I had ever been in. And yet, in the end, I found comfort and developed new friends. And you'll have to come see me speak if you want to hear the whole story, but it is astounding for sure.
Yes. Oh, I thought you were going to invite us to go back to the waterfall, to the cascada.
Let's go to
Let's go
Colombia.
back and see it.
Let's charter a plane. Everybody, get on with KMET. We're going to Colombia.
That's right. We're going to go see la cascada. Increíble. Wow.
Oh.
That is amazing. That I can't even imagine the feeling, the thoughts that must have gone through your mind at that moment when you're flanked by two officers in fatigues and automatic weapons, right? In the middle of the jungle, right?
The jungle, the most dangerous part. It was the jungle, and they, everybody told me don't stop, and I didn't know what these guys were. Military, paramilitary, drug cartel folks, or just common everyday Colombian thugs. I had no idea. But in the end, what could have been a very disastrous and life-ending situation turned out to be a connection of people. Because I will tell you this, they did say to me, "Oh, you like waterfalls, do you? There's another one in the jungle, a mile away. Follow us." And I have to tell you, I didn't think that was an offer. I think that was an order. But in the end, I had no choice. I had to go with them, but they did. And these guys, these terrorists, these cartel drug lords turned from being terrorists into my personal tour guides, taking me to a new waterfall. How can you do that? That's astounding.
It really is. It's a form of alchemy, some would say, right?
Right.
And I know that's one of the books that you were talking about, The Alchemist, that we should all take a look at and read at some point. But, when I hear about these stories and these very harrowing, circumstances that you put in, I know that resilience and optimism plays a huge role on your journey, both professionally and personally. Please talk about how resilience fits into your journey that you were on throughout your world travels.
Yeah, well, let's face it, that there's always situations where we find, like we talked about, where we're uncomfortable or something happens and we get a little dejected, we lose confidence, we are just maybe letting fear form our decisions. And it's in these cases where resilience really plays an important role. For example, I mentioned earlier that I was had a little accident. I was in the Altiplano. That's just the Andean mountains that run the length of South America. They're beautiful, from Colombia all the way down to Argentina. And I was in Bolivia, and it was a muddy road one day, and I was on the motorcycle, and it was very slippery, and the rear wheel of my bike slid out from under me. I got tossed into the mud, and my motorcycle, which weighs about 400 pounds, and I was carrying all my earthly belongings, that's another couple hundred pounds, comes crashing on top of me. It crushes my leg and breaks 3 places. Now, this is a story of my own personal resilience, but I did have to get medevaced out. I wasn't willing to put my faith that much into the Bolivian healthcare system, so I did get a medevac back to Orange County, and they put the pieces of my leg back together. And but all along that time, I had people, friends and family, say, "Oh, sorry about the end of your trip, Allan. What are you going to do now?" And I always knew then, and still to this day, I think we all have it within us, is to, pick ourselves up, get back on the horse, as it were, or back on the motorcycle, and go again. And I did. I returned to Bolivia. In fact, it's funny that I had to leave my motorcycle in Bolivia, and I found a guy who could stash it into a garage of one of his employees. And at some point, while I was going through rehab, I was back in the States. He even writes me an email and says, "So, Allan, looks like you're not coming back. Do you want to sell me your motorcycle?" So no, I went back. So in whatever we do, when we find ourselves facing a situation where we may get bruised, we may break a leg, We might even be, lost and don't know where our path should be going. Maybe we're facing a very difficult change. We're fired, we have a loss of a family or a pet. You can pick up yourself, and it's important. I think you and I have talked about this a lot, is about what we have a choice. We can focus on what's wrong and what's bad in the world or in our own personal lives, or we can focus on what's right and what's good. And I think when it comes to resilience, you need to look at not the problems, but rather the opportunities. Look at what's right. Look at what's good. And that comes down to having that mindset, that astounding mindset of just, being true to yourself and understanding that we don't really need to worry about things or problems that we don't yet have. And choose to see what's good in the world. Choose to see what's right. And you know what? If everybody did that, imagine the world we'd live in.
It would be a lot brighter. I can tell you that. I can imagine it would be a lot brighter. That's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So resilience. Yeah, there you have
So
it.
resilience is key, right? It's being able to, like you said, pick up those pieces, mend them, do whatever we need to do to collect ourselves, or, take control of the situation again, or at least within a manageable amount of, effort, and move forward.
Yeah, I'm a fan of saying, and anybody who's heard me speak or just knows me knows that it's a common adage, but there is a beginning at the end of every road you may feel you're at. It's like the old adage that is, behind one closed door, there's an open one. And when it comes to resilience and picking yourself up, if that's a way to look at what's right and what's bright and what's shining, there are no really ends. There's just more beginnings. There's more opportunities, and there are more possibilities. Just perspective. That's what you need to do.
Absolutely. And I love that you took these qualities and these mindsets on your journey. But please talk a little bit about how these principles translate to the collective journey, to everyday life for the working father or the working mother raising a family.
Yeah, it really does come down. It's a great question, that it comes down to many of the lessons. Let's just look at some things that usually may impede our resilience or may knock us down. It's change, it's fear, it's loss. All of these things that, whether you may be a single mother raising children, you're a working father, or you're a two-parent working family, you've got children you've got to be aware of. You've got to take care of them. You've got to feed them. You've got to make sure that they are loved and hugged. And I think it comes down to a notion of finding time for yourself. I talk about this because people say, "Why did you go on that motorcycle trip alone?" And I think what happens in our lives is we do get stressed. We do get bogged down by the hustle and the bustle. There's always things to do, right? There are always more things to do. There's always something you forgot to do. And one of the things that I think people could use as a lesson, I learned this a lot on my journey, especially being alone, is to make time for yourself, is to honor yourself, to honor what's inside you. Because if you're always running and looking at your phone and worrying about, I got to pick up the kids, I got to go to the doctor appointment, the dog is sick, it's time to walk the dog, oh my God, we're being merged into another company, am I going to lose my job? I mean, there's so many things that can happen to just all of us. Is make a point to make time for yourself. A lot of times people say, I like a newfound thing in life, I love naps. I mean,
Yes, I'm with you on that one. Yes,
right.
Allan.
I love naps. So to take a nap, it's like, oh no, I got to do this or this. No, you have to make time. So whatever it
Right.
is that you love to do, maybe you like to play the guitar, maybe you do really like to bake, maybe you're going to do whatever it is you need to. Don't say, when I find time, I'm going to do that, because you'll never find time. You have to make time. So make time for yourself. This not only helps you with your resiliency, this definitely helps you in your whole mindset and feeling, and you will be so much better to your children, to your spouse, to the relationships with your community, is just taking time for yourself and make it part of your, your day, your week. You'll know, but you do. There's something that you have within you that you really like to do or want to do, whether it's taking a nap or going to total digital detox or, going down to the batting cages and hitting the balls around. Make time for yourself, not with your spouse, not with your, your loved ones or whoever. Just make that to be part of that. And I think you'll see, this is a lesson that I learned on this crazy trip that anybody can apply at home is making that time.
I love it. All right. So with that said, we're going to head to a break. Thank you for that perspective. Everyone's got 2 minutes right now. You have 2 minutes to yourselves, everybody. All right. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk Southern California Business Report with Allan Karl, author of Forks, TV host, speaker, and adventure motorcyclist who traveled 80 plus countries and 100,000 plus miles on two wheels, featured on National Geographic, NPR, Good Morning America, CBS, Fox News, and Newsweek, speaking to worldwide audiences to overcome fear through the universal power of connection when we return.
Hi, Ray Lance from the Diamond Center in the Claremont Village here. One of the coolest parts of a third-generation family business is getting to know the families we serve through generations. Once you experience our friendly service, our fair and transparent pricing, and our beautiful jewelry that we make to last a lifetime, you'll stick with us too. Come visit us in the Claremont Village or at Lantz, L-A-N-T-Z, diamondcenter.com and see what makes us different.
Ontario International Airport is onto a better way to fly with over 65 daily nonstop flights to more than 20 major destinations and the easiest airport experience in Southern California. Visit flyonto.com/Ontario to learn more about Ontario International Airport today.
Hi, I'm San Bernardino County Sheriff Shannon Dykes. If you're looking to start an exciting career in law enforcement and make a difference in your community, we are hiring dispatchers, nurses, deputies, laterals, and many more. For a complete list of our jobs and more information, visit sheriffsjobs.com.
The University of La Verne is rated first in California for alumni satisfaction. Learn more about accelerated programs offered online and on campus in La Verne, Irvine, Ontario, Burbank, or College of the Canyons. Visit go.laverne.edu. The University of La Verne. go.laverne.edu.
Hi, I'm Dana Rademacher with MGR Property Management.
A lot of people wonder about the value that property management has for their property. Property management can include all property types, including residential, commercial, and HOA. It is valuable because property managers are experienced in what can happen at your property. We're aware of liabilities. We're able to do predictive and preventative maintenance. We know what is coming up with the changes in the weather, the seasons, how old certain aspects or different capital projects at your property are. We're able to best negotiate contract pricing, legalities with your tenants, and anything else that you may need to ensure that you're getting the full value of your property.
If you're interested in speaking with the representative at MGR Property Management regarding your property management needs, you can visit our website at mgrrealestate.com, or you can call our number at area code 909-581-6600 to be connected with the representative.
Cal State San Bernardino is home to the only school of entrepreneurship in California. With globally ranked degree programs, you can start your journey today to become a successful entrepreneur. Learn more and connect at entre.csusb.edu.
Welcome back, everyone. Yvette Walker with ABC News and Talk, Southern California Business Report, here today with Allan Karl, author of Forks, TV host, speaker, and adventure motorcyclist who traveled to over 80 countries and over 100,000 miles on two wheels, featured on National Geographic, NPR, Good Morning America, CBS, Fox News, and Newsweek, speaking to worldwide audiences to overcome fear through the universal power of connection. Thank you again for being with us today, Allan.
This is so much fun, Yvette. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And so prior to the break, you were commenting on how important it is for each of us to just take that time for ourselves, right? And there are other principles that you integrate into your message, including the idea of crave. Please talk about what that means.
Yeah. So, we as human beings all have natural cravings. Now, I'm not talking about the cravings for, food and shelter and these things, but rather those things that are more intellectual or emotionally based. And what I say is that if you give the people close to you and even common strangers or armed guerrillas on the side of the road carrying weapons, if you give people what they crave, you'll find that you'll make you'll build an instant rapport like that. You'll also create a more profound and deeper connection with that person. And what do people crave? This is something I'm working on. I'm working on a new book. It's called The Astounding Mindset, and it focuses on what I call the 5 pillars, and that's crave. Crave stands for curiosity. When you show interest in someone else, when you are actively interested in asking questions about who they are and turning around, as I said before about my book, from the I to a you. Wow, people want you to be interested in them. They also want respect. And also, what do we all need? What do we crave? Acknowledgement, somebody to recognize our contributions. And of course, we want to be shown that we are valued for our contributions, for who we are, for the base of that. And we all need and crave encouragement, to be encouraged so that we can push ourselves to the boundaries, not let these perceived blocks get in our way of achieving whatever it is, whatever goals we want to achieve. So we need people. We need to be curious. We need to respect people. We need to acknowledge people. We need to show the value of people, and we need to encourage it. And we all want that ourselves. So once you can get this idea of giving people what they crave, your relationships are going to go much higher, as opposed to just being transactional. Hi, how are you? And in all of these cases, I also say there's 2 key concepts, and that is when you are talking to somebody and sharing your curiosity and who they are, is to be sure to ask open-ended questions, because that's where you lead to more conversation. Don't ask a question that's going to be yes or a no. No, ask a question that's going to lead to more. And the other thing is, even though you're asking the question, be authentic and listen. So there's that notion of active listening. So sometimes it might want to repeat, for example, what somebody is saying to you as you're engaged in this connection. And when you're listening, this is such an important part of life, is being a good listener. How many times have we heard that? Being a good listener. This is what people crave, right? And turning that I over to a you, and I want to be interested in you, and I want to give you what you crave.
I love it. But, as optimistic and as focused as you are on those principles, I'm sure there are days when you have to look deep within yourself and pull yourself back to that state of mind. So please talk a little bit about some techniques that have helped you to see and look for strengths and opportunities within yourself and others.
Yeah. So this is a very good question. We all, as positive as I am, there are times where you can fall, and it comes back to a little bit of that resilience we talked about. I guess I would talk recently about a loss. I lost a pet. I've lost a close. Just recently, I actually lost a friend, and maybe it's a time to look at what techniques do we do to deal with loss. It's the hardest thing to, if you're the person learning of a loss of a very close friend of yours. How do you try to show your empathy and your compassion? It's very difficult. So how can they make that other person feel less intimidated, or what's the word I'm looking for? Whenever we're trying to connect and comfort somebody that's been through some difficult times, we are always at a loss for words. So let's say that's me. I need to be active in saying, you know what? Don't worry about it. What is it that you're doing today? What's inspired you today? And to turn that in, that will help me not only deal with my loss, but it will also make it more comfortable for the person who is lost for words. Because how do you comfort and console somebody who just lost their father or their husband, their wife, their partner, their job? It can be multiple things. Loss is one of those things that's the hardest to do. So the technique is to make it easy on other people, so that then becomes easier on you. Would be one way to do that.
Well, and I know that's something that you teach, hundreds and thousands of people in your world through your workshops. Please talk a little bit about what are the goals, what are the opportunities that exist during your workshops?
Yeah, so they're based. So I do keynote speaking. I get hired by corporations, associations, communities to speak and share a very inspirational message, as we've been talking about. And in some cases, they will ask me, we'd love to have you back and work more one-on-one, in a instead of 200, 500 people in the audience, work with 20 or 30 people here. And what we do is we go through that astounding mindset. We talk about the importance. And this also comes down to techniques of dealing with loss or any challenges that you have. And when my whole notion of this astounding mindset comes down to 3 core principles, and that is to do what's astounding. Don't be boring. Don't be mediocre. Take everything up a notch so that you are memorable. And you're not just dialing in work. You're not just doing what's expected. Doing what's astounding is doing what's unexpected. It's astonishing people with that. And then the other thing is honor what's astounding in others and the world around you. And what does that mean? As it comes down to that crave principle we talked about, is showing the value, acknowledging other people, respecting them, and being interested in them and encouraging them to do that. And then it's being astounding yourself. Everybody is astounding. Okay. Everybody is astounding, but we just don't always recognize it in others and maybe sometimes in ourselves. I use the example with like a parent or a grandparent. You can ask them what is special about their child or grandchild, and they will immediately rattle off a dozen things. And why? Why do they do that? How can they do that? It's because they look for it. Now, that's what we need to do from our point in these workshops, is get people to really look for what's astounding in others and in the world, and to kind of draw out of you what's astounding. What is your essence, to be true to yourself? Too often people are worried about what other people think about them. I need to be this, I need to be that. No, you need to be you. You need to be true. You need to be authentic. So my workshops work around those 3 core principles, and then the 5, as I call them, the pillars that form the foundation of the astounding mindset. And it works. It gets people excited. They will approach interactions with their team members, their leaders, the leaders with their employees, your family, your community, your whatever environment, your church. All these principles apply. And if you just take a moment to think about that, you can really elevate yourself to this astounding life, because you see the world and you embrace it through that astounding mindset.
Absolutely. I love that. And I know that you do this to make these teams successful, right? And success right? And success is one of those themes and a word that everybody wants to hold on to, right? But what is the standard, and what can it be? What can success be? Is it what we think it is, or is it something greater?
That's a great question. Yeah. I mean, success at the end of the day really is you being comfortable with yourself, right? Isn't it? You are happy. It's a bit about being successful as being happy. Now, some people may look at those material things that maybe send a message somehow of success, new cars, homes, clothing, fashion, status in your position in your community and your job. That's all certainly some sort of components of success, but that's not what we should be measuring ourselves on. What we need to measure ourselves on is how do we feel? How do we be checking in? You remember we talked about taking time for yourself, making time for yourself, but what checking in with yourself. Are you being true, authentic to who you are? Do you feel successful? And success may be you're giving your best to your family, your home. You are feeling good about the kindness and the compassion that you're spreading around. These are the measures of success that I think have much more meaning and are more profound, as opposed to those materialistic things and our overall status. Ask yourself, who are you most inspired by in your own community, in your own network of your friends or family or your community? And ask yourself, why are you drawn or attracted? Why are you inspired by them? Or what makes them so amazing? It's because they're successful in your eye. And why is that? So then you need to ask yourself and measure yourself on what it is that makes you happy, that makes you feel good about yourself. Success is feeling good about who you are, what you're doing, and what you believe.
Absolutely. And, sometimes success is driven by purpose, and purpose is a big word. And I know that there are a lot of people that have a challenge with discovering their purpose or really, truly and earnestly pursuing it. What do you say to those that may be seeking their purpose and how it is they can connect with it and pursue it?
It's another. You are just full of great questions today, Yvette. Yeah, purpose. We all hear this thing. We need to live a purpose-driven life. Okay, well, what does that mean? First of all, we come back to that notion of authenticity and who you are. And if you're maybe you may be in a job that you are, more or less happy with. You're making money. You're doing it, but you might just be dialing it in. You may not be really that passionate about that job. So is that your purpose, to be working in that? Or you may look at your community and you decide to contribute in a social environment somewhere, and you get joy out of that. Whatever it is you're doing, I ask people this in the workshop, is to take and measure what you're doing on a scale of 1 to 10, and find, it's a sliding scale. So find if what you did yesterday is at a 7, what do you need to do to take it to 10? And in some cases, maybe you're at your job and you realize, you know what, it's a 3. So what do? It may take time for self-reflection, that you may want to talk to your manager, look and see if there's any other opportunities within your community, within that your organization, your company, that you could be doing something that's going to give you more of a rewarding feeling. And it's okay to ask for those things. People will be more attracted and magnetic to you because you are recognizing something that a lot of people maybe haven't figured out how to do. So purpose comes down to, how do you feel about what you're doing? And is that where you think you want to be? And maybe in the back, I think all of us have this, Yvette, that we've, as a result of the stresses and the pressures of raising a family, of pursuing a career, and being a, contributing person within the community and within society, that we find that our passions, our dreams, and our purposes get kind of tucked underneath. But you know what? They're there. They're there. You need to unearth. You need to dig that out. You need to really foster your own environment of encouragement to recognize who you are and what you want to do. Don't lead a existence where you're unhappy because you have total control of your happiness. You can choose. So make the choice. And I think, if I come back to one of those lessons we talked about at the beginning of the program, is choose to see what's good, not what's wrong. So even when you were on that sliding scale and you're at a 3, okay, well, what got you to 3? There's some things in there. Don't worry about the things the 3 that because you don't like, but you do have something in there that you like. So look at what's right, not what's wrong. Find out, uncover your thing by checking in with yourself and asking yourself, whatever you do every day, measure that. Is this making me as happy as I can be? And figure out how you can take it to a 10, or find something else that you will get to a 10.
I love it. So can you share a favorite experience, a memory, or something that satisfied and piqued your curiosity during your 3 years of travel 80 plus countries, 100,000 plus miles on two wheels around the world.
Oh, wow. So many things. I could talk about the Pigeon Lady of Sofia. I could talk about Rosal Garcia. It's a lot. Largely, I'm really inspired by the resilience and the passion of women I've met, elderly women, believe it or not. I was in Ecuador. It was a horrible, it's one of those days where I probably would have measured what I was doing was a 2. Yeah, I was on my motorcycle and I'm in an exotic place, but it was pouring rain. It was lightning. It's in the Andes. The fog is so thick, I can't see anything. And I just want to, cry because it's, on a motorcycle, your mental acuity needs to be up 20 times than what you would be in a car because every possible thing you have to focus and concentrate on because you're very vulnerable.
Right.
And anyway, I'm like really tense and tired from 3 or 4 hours of being in this rain and this fog. It finally clears up and I stop my motorcycle to get dried off, get out of my rain gear. And that's when I noticed this woman coming up this steep hill and she's carrying 2 jugs of water. They're very heavy, like 5 gallons each, but she's just cruising, man. She's cruising up that hill. And I'm like, talk about like, who is this woman? Where is she going with those jugs of water? My curiosity is totally piqued. And she's dressed in this bright fuchsia colored outfit with a black sash. And she's wearing this, in Ecuador, the women wear these bowler hats. They're so cute, and I got to talk to her. So she doesn't speak any English. My Spanish is getting better. And, she tells me that she's on her way home. She's going to cook dinner for her husband. And by the way, she is 79 years old and her husband's 59 years old.
Oh, wow.
So she winks at me and says, I like younger men. Anyway, we have this great conversation on the side of the road. And I'm curious about all this, about her husband and that. And then after a while, she opens her mouth and points to the only tooth she has. Mm. And she asks me, Allan, in your country, can you, and how much does it cost to get new teeth? And I'm floored. I mean, I wish I could just magically, I dream a genie blank and give this woman teeth. And I tell her, I would get you teeth right now if I could. And she says, no, don't you worry. One day I'm going to have new teeth. She's 79 years old.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. Then she asked me if I'd like to come home with her to meet her husband. And I think this is a great idea, but it looks like the rain and the fog are coming, and I don't want no more of that stuff. So I want to drive to warmer weather. Right. So I pull out my little black moleskin notebook. It's a blank book where I write all notes down and things that can trigger me and that I want to remember. And she sees this book, and her face lights up. She grows really big and says, God, a book! A book! Can I have your book, Allan? I want to learn to read. And once again, this 79-year-old woman floors me, and I'm stunned. And anybody who sees my handwriting, it's really bad. And I show it to her. I says, look, you'll never learn to read from this book because it's impossible. And she sees my bike. It's all loaded with all the 200 pounds of everything I own. And she says, maybe you have another book. And motorcyclists, we don't carry books. They're heavy. And, I got other things I got to carry. And, but, in the back of my mind, I realize that, in the endless repacking and try to be more efficient in your, getting all this stuff on a 2-wheeled bike to travel around the world with, I'm shoving things around, and there's something in my bike that I have that there's no reason I should have it. And it's the owner's manual for my motorcycle helmet. I mean, you don't need an owner's manual, right? You put it on, you latch it up.
You're done. Yes. So you gave her a beautiful book, but I have to ask you before our time comes to an end, your travels inspired you to write the book called Forks. Please talk about, a couple of your favorite recipes and what you're most inspired about as you look into the future.
Oh, well, I tell you, the book Forks, A Quest for Culture, Cuisine, and Connection. Yeah, it's the recipes. It's the food. I tell you what, I'm one of these persons who likes to be uncomfortable, remember? And I did choose to go to Sudan and Syria, just before the madness happened in Syria. I was there. Mm-hmm. And one of the most amazing experiences and recipes that I got is a Syrian. It's a Middle Eastern salad. It's like a Greek salad. It's got its own little twist. It's called a fattoush salad. If you've been to a Middle Eastern restaurant, often they'll have that. I love that. That's in the book. Each of the recipes in the book are usually signature recipes for that particular country. The Mexican recipe I have in there is tacos al pastor. It's got the pineapple and the pork, and it's just amazing. I love the cucupaca. That's a Swahili word. It's a Tanzanian recipe. It's a coconut based chicken curry. You can use you don't need to use chicken. You can use fish, or you can be vegetarian. But it's all about that sauce, and it kind of blends the Eastern Africa with Western India, and then the Indies. All these nice flavors. That's really good. And what I look forward to going forward in my life and in the life of this planet, because we're all part of this big community of world citizens, is I do want to see more smiles. I'm looking forward to that. I want to see that us to get beyond looking at what's negative, and we're in such divisive times that I realize if we all could just sit down with each other over a beer or a coffee and talk to each other as humans, I believe we could really solve a lot more problems rather than create more or get angry with each other. So this is what I look forward to.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your travels and sharing it with the world. And thank you for spending a time to share it with our audience today, Allan. Thank you.
I appreciate you, Yvette. Thank you for having me on. And I hope everybody gets a little bit of nugget of something out of our talk today.
I love it. All right. For everybody listening, don't forget to find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Check us out on scbrtalk.com. And don't forget that Saturday, July 1st, San Bernardino Symphony Orchestra performs America the Beautiful at San Bernardino Valley College with family, food, music, and fireworks. Tickets start at $10 and children under 12 are free. Visit sanbernardinosymphony.org. Don't miss my interview with Aquanetta Warren, City of Fontana Mayor elected in December of 2010 and overwhelmingly re-elected in 2014 and 2018. Aquanetta Warren is serving her fourth term as the mayor of the City of Fontana. Mayor Warren focuses her administration on bolstering economic development, creating educational opportunities, and advocating for a healthier community. Next week, we will have Erin Gruwell. She is a teacher, an author, and an activist who has been fighting for social justice for over 2 decades. She first gained national attention in 1998 when she and her 150 students appeared on an ABC special Primetime Live with Connie Chung. Erin's students, affectionately called the Freedom Riders, came from backgrounds of poverty, gangs, and violence, and many were at risk of dropping out of school due to the school-to-prison pipeline. But under Erin's guidance, all 150 riders graduated from high school and pursued higher education. We will see you all next week, everybody. You do not want to miss this one.